Hey y'all, we are on lesson 58 here, percent word problems. I'm going to do a couple examples again and hopefully get y'all started on this one. They do recommend drawing a diagram for these. I'm going to demonstrate that. Some people really find that more trouble than it's worth. For some people, it really helps them. So I would recommend you at least try it and kind of see how it works out for you. But example 58.1 says, Kathy, John, and Susie have only 20 chickens left. If they began with 80 chickens, what percent of the original flock remains? So I'm going to demonstrate the diagram here. Basically, you have a circle representing the original amount. They call this the before amount. This is when you had 100%. You also have another circle that's going to be split up in a couple different parts. This is what you end up with afterwards. And you can fill stuff into these circles based on what the question says. In example 58.1, it says we wound up with only 20 chickens left. They started off with more. I don't know if they cooked them or sold them or what, but they've only got 20 now. So 20 remain here. It also says they began with 80. So before, when we had 100% of them, we had 80 chickens. Okay, and actually that first one, they always call it the of number. So even if you want to write of in there, that's the original amount. Like if you had 80 to begin with, you're trying to find out what's the new percent of the original of 80. We just said that 20 is all that's left, and the question's asking us what percent of that flock remains. So we're asking 20 is what percent, WP. We could also fill in the bottom part here. We don't need to find this other part, but just to fill it in. If they had 80 and they've only got 20 left now, then something happened to the rest of the chickens, 60 of them. Like I said, they sold them, they cooked them. I don't know what, a fox got them, who knows. But 60 of them went away somehow. So this is the after amount. You basically have it split into two groups. 60 went away somehow, only 20 were left. Now, this bottom part is kind of irrelevant to us for the question, because the question only asks us about the 20. But this diagram can actually be used to set up a math problem, because if you look at it, you actually start at the end here. We're trying to find out what percent is 20. So it says 20 is, and we know in math is means equals, what percent of, and we know of means times 80. So we can write a problem out. We can write 20 is what percent of 80. Now, there is one tricky little thing right here. Since this is a percent, if I work the problem out as is like this, I'm going to actually end up with a decimal answer, which will not be the same as the percent. It can be converted. But an easy way to fix that is anytime you write down a percent you don't know, write it actually as a fraction over 100, because that's what a percent is. It's a fraction of 100. So I'm going to write WP over 100. So really I've got 20 equals what percent of 100 times 80. And then I just do a little bit of algebra to solve this. So I start with my WP. I want to get rid of divided by 100, so I'm going to do times 100 to both sides. I'm also going to get rid of times 80, so I'm going to do divided by 80 on both sides. So I'm actually going to end up with this 20. It's going to be multiplied by 100 to get rid of the divided by 100 here. And then it's going to be divided by 80 to get rid of the times 80 right there. So I'm going to do 20 times 100, which is going to be 2,000. And then I'm going to do 2,000 divided by 80, and I'm going to get 25. And that's what the question was asking. What percent of the original flock remains? 25% remains. If it had asked what percent went away, well, then that leaves 75%. 75% went away. But there's a good example for you. We'll try one other one. Let's just skip to the last one. Since it's slightly different, we'll do example 58.3. Let me write it real quick. All right, we're going to look at example 58.3. I chose this one because it is slightly different. This one actually deals with a percent greater than 100. It says, Bo and Christy hid 600 or hide 600 raisins. Don't ask me why they did though. This is 60% more than they did last month. How many raisins did they hide last month? So we know how many they did after. We'll write that in just a minute. We're actually trying to find out how many they did before. We're wanting to know last month's amount. So that's what I'm going to call this first one. The original 100% number, we're going to call it LM for last month. So this is our of number of LM. So for last month. They tell us what they did this month. It says this month they did 600 of them. This is our is number. So 600 is. And like I said, it's a percent greater than 100. That's why I have this weird peanut looking thing here instead of the circle like we did in the last problem. This is 60% more than they did last month. Now remember, anytime you have a percent more, you had 100% to begin with, you increased it by 60% more. So we have a new total of 160%. Basically, this month's amount is 160% of last month's amount because it's 60% more. So 600 is 160%. And again, we just write a math problem with this. 600 equals 160% times LM, last month. So 600 equals 160% times LM. And I want to get LM by itself. So that means I'm going to get rid of the times 160%. And to get rid of times 160%, we divide by 160%. So I will divide both sides. I'll do 600 divided by 160. Make sure you hit percent and not just 160. And you get 375 as your answer. And that makes sense because remember, they hid more this month. So last month, they hid less. So 375 is less than 600, so it makes sense. So these can be a little tricky. Just be careful on them. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. As always, good luck on it.